This extreme heat that we have been seeing in July is starting to burn a hole in household budgets across southern Nevada.
Yeah, many taking to social media or sharing their NV Energy snapshot with their projected bill, saying that we've never seen it this high. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Latoya Silman.
And I'm Jim Snyder. So what can you do about it? News 3 Steve Wolford joins us live with some expert advice.
Well, we could start with praying for cooler weather, but in the meantime, let's talk about these energy snapshots. If you get one of these from NV Energy, you're probably freaking out right now. This one is telling me my power bill in August will be about 25% more than I paid in August of last year and double what I paid last month. And we're hearing this from a lot of viewers. So what can you do to keep your household budget from going up in flames?
I anticipate, it's going to be somewhere around $250.
Daniel Quinones says his next power bill could be a shocker.
Probably a little more fortunate than some in that it doesn't really affect my income all that much, but nevertheless, I feel the heat, so to speak.
Marcia Stewart, on the other hand,
there's things I don't buy anymore.
Says her summer power bills have forced her to do without.
There's things I didn't buy today that I might have. I like to drink Sprite and have a nice, club soda type drink. And I didn't buy any because they're $8.
So how do you plan for an unforeseen expense like a much larger than expected power bill, especially on the heels of record inflation and back-to-school shopping?
I mean, this is, for some families, a crisis.
Matthew Bees is a financial planner with Wells Fargo. Among his budget tips, set clear goals. Identify sources of income, then add up your bills, like your mortgage. Determine if you have a surplus or deficit, and identify discretionary spending, things you can live without. Might be a daily trip to the coffee shop, dropping a streaming service, or putting a weekend family trip on hold, maybe even tapping the brakes on saving up for a new home.
It can feel restrictive to say no to certain things. It frees you up to say yes to others. And one of those really important things is staying cool and staying healthy.
And one thing to avoid.
For those that are using their credit cards to pay their bills, you're going to want to take a look at the interest rates on those and recognize that by allowing these things to accumulate on your credit cards, that's not going to solve any problems. In fact, it's only going to compound them in the long run.
Yeah, that's right. And Matthew says one other thing, only dip into your savings to pay bills as a last resort. Also, he says, don't be afraid to explore different payment options. NV Energy, for example, has a number of assistance programs and equal pay, which makes it easier for you to plan out your monthly budget month to month, especially when we get into the summer months and we're looking at some unexpectedly high bills.
In 13 days, students and staff of the Clark County School District will head back to the classroom, but will there be enough employees to provide children with the best learning environment?
Crisis in the Classroom investigator Tiffany Lane has an update on vacancies and what's being done to address them.
Well, we've heard from staff who feel overworked to make up for shortages and families worried there aren't enough licensed teachers to help their children. Today I spoke with hiring leaders in the Clark County School District, and they say they're working around the clock to fill openings.
We're doing everything we can to help support the students.
Heading into the school year, CCSD has 1,100 teacher openings, leaving about 6% of classrooms without a licensed teacher. The district recruitment team says it's working to get those positions filled.
For example, special education is always a little more difficult to fill, and that's purely because there aren't as many candidates in those programs. Locally, our focus is always on the north and in the east. Those are where our major vacancies are.
Brian Redmond, director of recruitment for the district, says numbers are better than last year when the school year started with 1,400 teacher vacancies. And teachers have said over the past year that the staffing shortages are impacting them.
I'm seeing my teacher colleagues burn out. I'm burnt out, I go home and I'm exhausted.
News 3 asked the district if there are any incentives to get teachers into the schools with the greatest openings.
Currently, all the incentives are under negotiations, so we don't have anything currently that we're able to give from a district standpoint, but locally, principals have opportunities to give incentives to teachers. And it just depends on the school. It comes from the principal. So I know some principals that are giving a $1,000 retention bonus or a $2,000 bonus to these teachers.
He is referencing the ongoing negotiations for teacher contracts between the Clark County Education Association Union and the district. What are the approaches he says they're taking to fill teacher vacancies? expanding the recruitment team.
They travel all over the U.S. In all different states to try and find licensed teachers to come work in Las Vegas.
Looking for more teachers from outside the U.S. and utilizing programs to move other school staff, including support staff, into licensed teacher roles. Speaking of support professionals, they have about 400 vacancies right now. That includes about 60 bus driver positions. I ask what this could mean for students once school starts.
Typically, we'll then work to see if there's any consolidations that we can do with existing drivers. Maybe there's some space in the driver's route where they can pick up a smaller run. But we also have some office staff that hold CDL licenses, and they also support students and get them to school.
Now, district leaders say we'll have a better idea of what staffing will look like by the end of this week, and that way they can determine what moves need to be made to make sure students get their rides to school and have staff ready to teach them as they enter the school doors come August 7th. Now, stick with News 3 as we continue to provide updates over the next few weeks. Send me your tips on issues impacting our schools, whether you're a student, parent, employee, or concerned community member. Scan that QR code on your screen or email schooltips@news3lv.com directly. You can also call 702-805-0489.
A Henderson police report revealing disturbing details about the case that includes possible narcotics use and the condition of all three. Our Kristen Drummond reports from Henderson with an update on the case.
The man and two young children were found in this desert area of Henderson, according to police. Law enforcement responding to the area because of a missing persons report. When officers found the trio, they were suffering from possible heat exhaustion.
You just don't take kids out into extreme heat in cars.
A nearby neighbor snaps this photo. It shows Henderson police investigating a white Ford Flex in the desert by Cadiz Avenue and Parowan Street. That's where police found 59-year-old Brian Lageson and his two children in the car with temperatures outside around 105 degrees Monday morning.
It was probably, about 75 yards off the road.
This neighbor did not want to be identified, but watched police investigate the situation.
Well, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know whether there was a homicide or somebody died or what. There was like 6 cop cars out there, and they had it marked off with the tape.
An arrest report says Lageson's friend reported him missing on Monday. The investigation revealing Lageson, his 3-year-old son, and 4-year-old daughter had not been seen or heard from when they left his apartment to go to church on Sunday. Police pinged Lageson's cell phone and found his car. Officers report the children being naked and all three unresponsive while going in and out of consciousness. The report states there was evidence in plain view inside of Brian's vehicle which indicated possible narcotics use. The windows of the car were cracked, not rolled down entirely. A search revealing in the rear passenger area on the floor was feces from an unknown source. Lageson's son also suffering a seizure, according to police.
So this extreme heat, how quickly can it impact a young child?
Oh, it depends on the situation. If they're in a car that's not well ventilated, it can be very rapid.
Dr. Jim Andrus, a pediatric critical care physician.
You have to remember, if you're in a closed space, it's just like our atmosphere that you get the greenhouse gases. And so as the children breathe faster, they're breathing out a lot of CO2. CO2 retains heat a whole lot better.
Dr. Andrus did not treat the children, but says adults need to understand the impact of high temperatures on kids.
People have to exercise good sense. I mean, it's something this time of year you have to be very responsible.
All three were taken to a hospital and listed as critical. Henderson police say the case remains open and active at this time.
Just click below and subscribe to News 3. You'll get more stories that affect your community.